BlogTalk Radio. Women have the power to transform this world. We can end crime and violence if we all agree to do one thing: share. Let's share our wisdom, share our time, share our talents, share our finances, but most of all, let's share our love. This is the Female Solution. Join me, Naima Latif, every morning, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, as we bring you stimulating discussions about the issues affecting our lives. If you're listening online at www.blogtalkradio.com/the-female-solution, press the blue button that says follow and get our daily topics every morning directly to your email and your smartphone. Hi, I'm Naima Latif, executive producer of the Female Solution radio show. We invite you to call in 515-605-9325 and participate in this daily think tank as we examine the challenges we face and develop solutions that restore peace and harmony. We are global transformers, changing the world from the way it is to the way it should be. We are one. Wherever we live on this earth, we are one human family. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to extend a greeting to all the members of our family, whenever and wherever you may be listening around the world. To our family in China, Ni Hao. In India, Namaste. In Japan, Konnichiwa. In Korea, Annyeonghaseyo. In Russia, Здравствуйте. In Germany, Guten Tag. In Poland, Dzień dobry. In France, Bonjour. In Spain, Hola. In Italy, Ciao. In Egypt, Ahlan wa sahlan. In Ghana, Akwaba. In Nigeria, Peleo. In South Africa, Sawubona. In Senegal, Nangadet. In Kenya, Jambo. In Israel, Shalom. In Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Saudi Arabia, Assalamu alaikum. Greetings, and may peace be upon you all.
What if you could live to be 120 years old and remain active, healthy, alert, and vibrant? Our bodies are made up of cells that are constantly rejuvenating. So if we take proper care of ourselves, we can literally defy aging. Join us every Tuesday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Standard Time to learn about self-care from Suson Essentials on the Female Solution BlogTalk radio show. Learn how to help your body and your cells feel rejuvenated each day through proper nutrition, sleep, frequency medicine, and many unconventional methods of self-care. I'm Jodi Suson. Join me by calling in at 515-605-9325 and press 1 to speak. We'll help you achieve a breakthrough in your health today.
So good morning, everybody, and welcome to Self-Care. I'm Jodi Suson, your host. I am so excited to tell you that I have an amazing guest. Her name is Dr. Luci Lawlis Bennett. And if you recognize one of those names, Lawlis, I met this amazing woman through her father, Dr. Frank Lawlis, who is the creator of the bod that I talk about so often. And I'm going to bring Dr. Luci into the show, and then I'm going to step out for a second to turn off my tower garden that just went on. Okay, so let me just do that. Let me see if we can. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, Jodi.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
You've got a spine back there.
I do. I have a spine. This is actually the my son's room, and it was actually covered with all sorts of things that I had to take down.
Fair enough. Yeah.
He's moved out, and you know how that is with the empty nest. You have to kind of take it back.
Yes, reclaim your home.
I'm reclaiming my home, and I hung my spine because I thought, well, this is kind of what we're talking about. So
Absolutely. So give me a moment. I'm going to ask you to share for the listening audience and the watching audience your background. And while you're sharing the background, I'm going to step away for a half a second and turn off my tower garden, which is that's a hydroponics. We grow our food here in my office. And it always goes off during the show, and I always forget to turn it off. I'll learn. So I'm going to give you the floor. And let's see if that, wait, let me, if I can, well, I don't know how to, well, I'm going to let you chat because I don't know how to mess with that.
So basically, I'm going to introduce myself, right? My name is Dr. Luci Lawlis Bennett, as she just introduced me. And I have a long history. I'm a physical therapist, and I've been working in the field of physical therapy for about 33 years.
So just a very short period of time. Yeah.
Oh, very short period of time.
Short.
A little more than half my life.
Absolutely. Right.
And my specialty has always been working with chronic pain and with chronic back pain, neck pain, pelvic pain, stuff like that. So it's quite a bit of a different arena than working with folks that, while I've seen them, having the post-ops, total knee, total hips, all those things.
I've had the total knee replacement.
Yeah, and that's a different rehab process. It really, and it's a tough one too. So I haven't spent a lot of time in the last 20 years seeing those kinds of patients. It's mostly been back pain, neck pain, pelvic pain. Those experiences of kind of seeing what makes a difference, what's really important, because, chronic pain is a very different process of bringing things together, of connecting our biopsychosocial aspects and whatnot. In fact, as you were talking to me before the show started, and talking about integrating the bod in with physical therapy, those bringing all of those concepts together is extremely valuable for folks like that. Mm-hmm. And what is that? That's the
bod.
Oh.
I see it now. I followed Jana White growing up, so I do show and tell.
I thought you were showing me your phone or something.
No, it's the bod.
Now I see it. Of course, I know the bod.
I know you know.
I grew up with the bod. And any other biofeedback device my father used to hook us up to, when we were little. And he would bring us to work with him, how summers go when you're a parent and everything. And, he's bring your kids to work with you day. And he always worked in different pain clinics and, and stuff like that. He would put us in the room with the biofeedback devices and hook us up and have us do different biofeedback things while he was off working. So I'm very familiar with all those different aspects of biofeedback.
Yeah, and I'll just say, and then we're going to stay focused on you because it's really about you, and your brother will be on in a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a gift he gave you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And a gift that he gave me, right? Because through my counselor, because it calms the brain in ways so well. That allows us to be completely present in the moment for people and for ourselves.
Well, with healing the body, it's just like everything that your show is about. We are made of cells. Cells can grow, and it's all about the nervous system and our self-awareness and how, we're feeling emotionally, spiritually, how we take care of our physical body, what we can, it's all a huge balance. So, you can't really separate one from the other. And I'm really blessed because, I've come into this whole process of working with people and helping people, recover their lives and everything through more of a physical aspect. But I have all this other background that I bring with me, thanks to, my father, my mother, who is also a psychologist, and
Oh, I didn't know your mom was also a psychologist.
oh yeah. Yeah. I my Indian name for myself is Child of Many Shrinks. Because all my mothers were psychologists too.
Lucy, you have some explaining to do.
Right?
How many times have you heard that? Okay, I'm just gonna say.
Well, yeah, I've heard that, but I still hear it.
Well, in my first bird, I have lots of parrots, and over my lifetime. But one of the my second bird, I named her Lucy, and her boyfriend was Desi. So yeah,
That's cute.
I have to tell you. So, that's your Indian name.
Well,
Of many.
when I'm trying to be funny, that's my Indian.
I think I need to.
No disrespect. No disrespect.
No disrespect. It's forgive me. I don't want to get off topic. So many people are asking others to change names of like football teams or whatever the sports team is, because it may have a name descended from Indians or whatever. And I'm like, it's not a bad thing. They were here first. Yeah.
They're like something to be admired. There's the strength,
Thank you.
It's very much something to be admired. That's how I always viewed it.
Thank you.
Why take that away?
What's the biggest form of flattery?
I agree. But, it's a very sensitive culture we're in right now. So, while you want to be respectful, you also, it's like, well, I thought that was, yeah, right.
And so how I look at it is, first of all, I always just do me, right? Mm-hmm. And if you choose to be offended by me honoring a culture, that's your choice in the matter.
Indeed.
Right? That's your perception. The only thing I can worry about, and I do worry about, is really, where's my heart? Do I start from heart? If I'm not starting from heart, then I need to pause and do a rethink.
It's very true.
Yeah.
Very, very, very true.
So look, I love talking to you, but we're going to honor the audience right now and give them what they asked for. Because I can talk about everything.
I hope so.
So here's the cool thing: you're writing this book, right? And it's called Core Truth Only.
Yes, Core Truth.
We're cutting out.
Do you hear me now? How is that? Is this good?
I do.
Because I hear you.
It is.
So yes, Core Truths, it's for women only, right? And really, the main intention behind developing this book, there's a couple of goals I had in mind that I really wanted to get across. But the main intention of this book is to talk about the truths, the physiological truths about helping women to age successfully. Because, women do live longer, right? And a big piece of aging successfully is being able to maintain control of your physical body, control of your spiritual, control of your mental, and all of that. And so a big truth is that bodies do change as we age. That's just a piece of it. But there are a lot of strategies and a lot of ways into holding on to that control of your physical body. Because when you lose control of that, when you can't get yourself up out of the bed, when you can't walk, and take care of yourself, when you can't go take yourself to the grocery store and do your own shopping, your own, cooking and things like that, then you start having to rely on others to help you do these things, which, is a fine thing to have the support and everything. But then we lose control of our own choices in life. So, like I was saying,
and that's the title of the story that I wrote.
Oh, really?
Informed choices.
It's all about being able to hold, your ability to make choices for yourself, and having physical control over your body is a big piece of that. And so basically you need to keep yourself moving, right? Because if you don't use it, you lose it, and we all know this. And the core muscles, and notice I said muscles, not muscle, because it is a group of muscles that hold us upright against gravity, move our physical body around. It connects and holds and supports our cage, our rib cage, our spine, our pelvis. And it's a lot more complex than the other muscle systems, right? And when you don't have good control of your core, then you actually lose your foundation, because, we tend to think of our foundation as being in our feet. And yes, they are, at the bottom, at the floor of us. But the foundation of the core is what gives the stability for our arms to reach, to lift, to carry, for our legs to be able to pick us up and straighten and move and, kick. We have to have the stability of our core. So, that, is an important aspect of self-care for the physical body, recovering your core, because, life brings challenges, and, things change, and recovering from this change, like having a total hip replacement, or, all the other different aches and pains that come along in life, just pursuing care, pursuing intervention, and, keeping those things active and, going are a big part of that. And so, obviously the core muscles are a huge piece of that, from my perspective as a physical therapist. And also
give you, not only from your perspective. So when I was reading, again, the information you sent to me, I sent it over to a friend of mine who's also going to be on the show in May. Her name is Jen Stennett. She's a counselor, and she coaches a group of gymnasts, and she was a gymnast, and I was a gymnast. Well, okay. So core, right, is everything.
Yeah.
I used to do crunches and hollow holds, and hollow. I used to, it was my big thing. I had to beat the guys at the hollow hold. My core is better than your core.
And that is what's driven our industry, for sure. The competitive spirit, which is a fine thing until it isn't. And that's kind of my point. So,
well, and I was having fun, and I was 14 years old.
Well, exactly, and that's my point. This is what I'm writing about, is for women only, and it's actually more directed for women of a certain age, in our 30s and beyond. Is how to understand how your body works, because again, life happens, things happen, and when you want to get your body back, get your core back, and so what do you think? Right away is what do we see on the internet and on social media is, well, get involved with Pilates. Get involved with, you can get involved with a trainer. You can, if you, hit the internet and put in core exercises, you're going to see about 20 different ways to do a plank and do a
right. I was going to
do what? Guess what? For women, if they start off with that level of intensity, but yet they bring some other problems that are happening in their physical body, they could create a lot more problems for themselves. And I'm not just talking about pain. I'm talking about other aspects. And this is where women are different than men, because, we have the lady business, right? Just have to understand as you're going after trying to do something that's very healthy and very good for yourself. But if you start in a place, because when you're 14, when you're 20, even, 25, you can get away with keeping up with the guys and everything because, things work pretty well, and there's a whole, how the neurology and the motor control, develops as we, as babies and stuff like that. We don't need to trot all that stuff out because that becomes kind of, boring except for to other therapists. But, but, it's just, I think, a very important thing for all women to understand the truths of how, the core works, because it's all about the pressure system and it's all about the inner core muscles and how they control our internal pressure system. And that's a very hard thing to get across to people.
So explain what you mean by that.
Yeah, that's the point of the book. Explain what do I mean about the internal pressure system.
Oh, wait, we have a thing here from Naima Latif, who is also our executive producer. I'm going to read what she has to say. It says, I see a lot of tall women who learn to see themselves as too tall and have slumped over throughout their lives, ashamed of their height. By the time they reach 50, they have a hump in their back. Is this reversible? Please address back posture as it reflects one's self-esteem. Oh, she's going to do that, Naima, let me tell you. And how the hump in the back affects your health. Thanks. Great question, but I'm going to take it off the screen because you can't see us. Okay. And never mind. But anyway, so, why don't we, where do you want to start first? Do you want to start with the hump is reversible, the self-esteem?
Well, let's actually, this is if it's okay, a good moment in time to talk about, addressing that first question you asked me, because all of these questions come from, understanding how these muscles work. And yes, things like that up to a certain point with women, depending on other health conditions and stuff like that. A lot of those things are reversible and changeable, but you have to get involved with understanding how it works, because again, core muscle, the core muscle group is not like, the group of muscles that control the knee or control the shoulder, because those are muscle groups that are only having to concern themselves with controlling bones, and controlling a joint or a series of joints in a kinetic chain. Whereas the core not only is involved with controlling all the bones of the cage, the spine, the pelvis, and whatnot, but it also is responsible for breath and breathing. We're not used to thinking about breath in terms of core. Yeah, the diaphragm, exactly. And it's also a part of supporting our organ system, right? Mm-hmm. And continence. So that's a lot of different responsibilities. And, I like that anatomy picture, but actually it only shows us this is the main thing that people get very focused on, because these are what I call the outer core muscles.
The outer core. What do you want me to
got it. The outer core. I'm sorry?
Do you want me to do a search on a different?
Actually, I have with me. If you don't mind, the easiest way to talk about it is to walk through a little anatomy. Do you mind walking through a little anatomy?
Not at all. I am all on it. Let's go.
I have this wonderful app that you might be interested in. It's called Essential Anatomy. And hopefully.
Okay. Let me see if I can get a bigger screen for you.
Hold on.
Where I can change this up. See, right now it toggles. Oh, if I make here, go ahead. I gave you solo layout.
Solo layout. All right, here we go. So basically, and I don't know if it's looking to you like it's looking to me, but I'm getting a lot of it's,
So I see.
There we go.
A spine. I see
my spine. And the neatest thing about this app is that you can flip things around.
Cool.
Yeah, you can look up and down and whatnot, and you can add layers. So we're looking at the front, you know, just to kind of give it a basic orientation. Here's the pelvis. Oh, sorry. Here's the pelvis. There's the spine, and there's the rib cage, and we're looking at the front of this person, right?
Correct.
So we're going to add a diaphragm. So there's the diaphragm, and what I'm talking, the first few muscles that I'm going to talk about are actually what I call more the inner core muscles. How's that? Does that look pretty good to you?
It looks really good to me. So what I see, just, you know, and for the listening audience, because we have people who are
exactly. I'm gonna do my very best to be as descriptive as possible, so that, you know, the listener can kind of follow along. The diaphragm is a big deal. It's our breathing muscle. It's a dome-shaped muscle. We're going to look from the side, and you can kind of see the dominess of it. And interestingly enough, it's a muscle. I'm going to tip this back so that you can look up inside. Now we're looking up into the cage, and you'll note that how it attaches all along the rib cage, all the way around the entire periphery. So to the front of the spine, right there.
Yeah.
And so and again, let me tip this back up. Again, this is dome shaped, and it's attached all the way around. So it's kind of a circular muscle of sorts. And we're going to kind of bring it in here. And I just want to kind of point out how the muscle fibers, because the direction of the muscle fiber defines the function of the muscle, right? And all muscles, the red meat of the muscle never attaches directly to the bone, right?
Really?
Yeah. The red meat has to turn. I'm sorry?
I'm just repeating. So the red meat of the muscle never attaches to the bone.
No, ma'am. It has to turn into a white gristly tendon in order to blend with the periosteum of the bone. So that's why you always, and that white tendon can have a lot of different looks to it. And the interesting thing about the diaphragm is we have a big white tendon in the center of it, right? And then little white gristlies all along the edge, again, where it's attaching to the base of the cage. Let me bring this back down. And so anyways, when the diaphragm is doing, it's the main muscle of respiration, is what we call. And when it's doing its work, this is the diaphragm, my hand here. When we breathe in, that diaphragm flattens and expands. So these muscles are all pulling down that white central tendon in order to draw air into the lungs. So, and we have the lungs and the heart sitting directly on top of that diaphragm there.
So let me repeat, the heart and the lungs are sitting on top of the diaphragm.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, I had to take a drink.
And, you know, and I think when I first learned about the diaphragm, I was in choir, you know, could you sing from your diaphragm?
Singing is so, and this is exactly, you sing from your diaphragm, but what's interesting is the diaphragm depresses and expands to draw air in, but where phonation, where voice, talking, all of these actions are driven actually by the rest of these other muscles. This is only a part and one piece of the work of breath, okay? So let me back this out, and let's add muscle on there. There we go. We're going to add, this is our transverse abdominis. All right. It's the innermost abdominal muscle.
Okay.
And it wraps around, and it has connections all the way from the back. So we have that white, and then we have a red meaty part, and it's coming back into white. So it's kind of like, you know, the muscle fibers of the transverse abdominis, I'm going to bring that in. You note that they're horizontal, actually, right? And so their action, and it's a pretty darn big muscle when you can.
It's huge.
It's huge, exactly. I want to point out that, you know, this is our pelvis. I light it up with green, and there's the pubic bone of the pelvis. And you see we have this relationship, this horizontal support all the way from the pelvis, and then, you know, through our waist is actually the muscle that gives us a waist, and up to the cage.
So
all the way up.
See, it looks like that's white. So if okay.
Yeah, the white. I'm sorry.
So help me in the listening audience.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all white. So forgive me, but is that all tendons then, or what is that?
Well, this is, I mean, you can think of it like a tendon. It's the official term is aponeurosis, right? It's like a great big huge.
And say it 3 times fast.
Huh?
Say it again and say it 3 times fast.
Aponeurosis, aponeurosis, aponeurosis.
Okay,
yeah.
So aponeurosis.
So the thing with this muscle that's extremely important to understand is this muscle is a holder. Okay, this muscle connects our pelvis and holds and supports our pelvis. It holds and supports the spine. It's kind of like a corset. It holds and supports the cage, the base of the cage. It's not necessarily a mover. It's a holder.
Got it.
It's the foundation of the core. The outer core muscles are more our movers, and we'll get into those in a minute. Because I want to spend a lot of time addressing, the relationship of this muscle with the diaphragm, with the next muscle I'm going to talk about, which is the pelvic floor, because those 3 muscles work together. They are the true multitaskers. And as women, we should totally appreciate a good multitasking tool, right? And that's what that is in our body. So I'm going to get rid of this and this and this, and we're going to look at the pelvic floor. So what I've done now is I've tipped it down so we're actually looking down into the floor. And you see that's a hammock of muscle. There's our pubic bone.
Yep.
And there's the tailbone. And now I'm going to turn it to a side view, and we're going to bring it up, and we're going to tip it like that. And you're going to see how that is a hammock of muscle that supports and connects the bottom of our pelvis and supports our pelvic organs. And again, it gets involved with breath. When you're using that muscle, it's basically, if you want to try to activate it real quick, you want to think about where your pubic bone is and where your tailbone is, and that lives in between your sit bones, right? So its action is to support not only the organ system, but also the pressure and the changes in pressure that come with breath and with, as we talk and, all of those other things. So it's kind of like the pelvic floor therapists refer to it as kind of the body's trampoline.
You know what? So I'm having such a blast, and it occurred to me, it's 7:32. We need to actually go to commercial.
Okay.
And so give me a moment, please. So we'll be back in a couple minutes. We're just going to, run a few things. This is so amazing. Like
it's really, I get really excited about, because I talk about this all day long with people, because this is so important. I cannot emphasize that enough.
Oh, I get it. And I was telling my friend Jen Stennett that, here's the thing. And I know this is really targeted to like 30 plus, and you can answer this question.
Everybody needs to
come back. Well, if you start as a young kid, when you get to 30 plus, you're golden. So hold on one sec. Let me do a share screen. All right. And
Jodi Suson of Suson Essentials is certified by the #1 functional medicine doctor on plant-based healing essential oils, which are revolutionizing the way we manage our well-being. Schedule today to take control of your health.
And there you go. There's Dr. Frank's commercial.
Hi, everybody. This is Jodi.
Actually, this is old, so we're going to escape out of that.
Hold on. Want to tell you how
so technology is not my thing.
Let you know.
I so understand.
Will be joining me on my radio show.
Okay, so let's see if we can do this. And that can close.
Hi, I'm Naima Latif. Join me and my co-host Kareem Hamid every Wednesday morning, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on the Female Solution Radio Show, as we explore that relationship that is the foundation for our society, the relationship between men and women, husbands and wives. In our discussion, as we seek to repair broken family ties and rebuild our community. Listen online at www.blogtalkradio.com/the-female-solution. Call in and comment 515-605-9325. Press 1 to speak to our host. Or you can join us live on Facebook at www.facebook.com/the-female-solution.
Hallelujah. Greetings in the spirit
Hi,
of
I'm
Weo
Jodi
and Yah Shalom. Weo means we are one. Yah is Hebrew sacred name for God, and Shalom means peace. I'm Evangel Mama D Love Yah Nubian, and I'm inviting you to join me every fourth Saturday from noon to 2 p.m. Wisdom with Mama D. Call in number 515-605-9325. Wisdom, women in support of daughters on motherhood preparation. And spiritually speaking, men who do the will of God are mothers too. As a Montessori educator, author, activist, international awards in sport, and ordained minister, females, I want you to say farewell to all things, seen and unseen, that prevent your potential. You bring forth life and give birth to babies. A kid is an animal beast with 4 legs. A child is a human being person with 2 legs. Facts can change feelings, but feelings cannot change facts. A mother teaches love. Love is beyond that reaches out and holds places and things together. That's what Wisdom with Mama D is about. Join me every 4th Saturday from noon to 2 p.m. Call in 515-605-9325 to share your wisdom and love souls into shape. Remember, mother's farewell. If you don't, your child won't. And if he doesn't, society disagrees. Females, you are global transformers with the power to change this world. Use it.
Hi, I'm Jodi Suson with Suson Essentials. I started Suson Essentials in 2015 because of a personal health journey. I was over-medicated and put on 19 different medications. And yes, I reversed all my chronic diseases using plant and energy-based healing. It was amazing. At Suson Essentials, we support both consumers and businesses, and we do that with helping your employees or yourself with a food as medicine mindset. How Suson Essentials supports businesses and consumers is we teach people about a food as medicine mindset. So we support people on how to support their own immune system, how to support their brain health, how to support their emotional well-being. And we do that all with plant and an energy-based healing.
Okay, we are back, and I'm going to let you take the floor again. I'm just trying to get rid of
NetSuite Cloud ERP is a shared
other
database that
commercials
allows
from other
different groups within
companies.
your organization.
You know, sometimes you win, sometimes you don't.
Right?
You know,
It's a journey.
it is, and it's really something. I made a shift. I'm just going to share something personal. I made a shift last week when someone who I've known for years, we're friends. We've been friends for about, I don't know, maybe 8 years, but we live in different states, and we came together because we both had a passion for corporate wellness. And we only met in person once in Florida. And she says to me, you know how serious I am. And I thought, not really. And I realized that when I was talking about health, I was so serious. I suspected people can't hear me because there's no joy involved. So I decided to start making light of not everything, but like in the joy, bring in the laughter, bring in the levity. Because if we take it too seriously, I mean, I'm not saying I don't take my health serious. Like that is the number one thing for me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, this is all. You wouldn't be up to all of this if you didn't. People would get the message, if you know. Obviously, you take it very seriously, and it's very valuable.
But we got to have more fun.
Absolutely.
So, anyways, I want to bring this back to you because, and let me just give you my initial reaction. Wow. Wow. Initial reaction. So, first of all, what's that device that you're using again to demonstrate?
My iPad. This is my iPad, and the app is called Essential Anatomy. And I think nowadays there's another, the next version of it is called Complete Anatomy. You know, they're more expensive.
Cool.
Oh, it's so invaluable to me. So invaluable to me. So yes, I rely on this every day at work. We go through it because you have to understand your anatomy. If you don't know it and you don't know where it's at, you can't change it.
Well, exactly. And when I do like healing, shamanic healing, like I don't know all the anatomy of the entire body. That's not my gig. But so Andrew, who you met, who's my boyfriend, had a traumatic brain injury when he was 16. And then again, I think when he was 20-something, 21 maybe, he got punched in the eye after he had been in a coma for 4 days when he was 16. And so he had some damage to different parts of the brain, recovered, resurfaced, recovered. But the last part of the recovery, when he had a scan done at Amen Clinics, the brain health clinic, it showed that the dural layers of the brain, new word for me, right?
An important word too.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
They're too close together. Okay. So since I didn't have that knowledge, let's say even a year ago, and because I'm more on nutrition, I was able to see what was going on, just like you're showing us what's going on in the body, right, in the core. Exactly. And as a result, I now have new terms, new words I can use to talk to God with a specific request.
Exactly.
And, we actually used the bod, we used oils, and we used several other FDA clearing devices. And I don't think shamanism is FDA cleared, but it worked anyway.
And that's what you said just a minute ago is, again, a big piece of what motivated me to, try to pull all this information together, is to bring these very complicated, like dura. That's a very complicated piece of anatomy and very, very powerful. And how do you bring that into terms that, everybody can understand? And my main goal, and I'm going to give my father a lot of credit because he really helped me bring this together. Because, he's very, he tends to have a vision.
You know what he said to me? It was like 4 weeks ago. So I'm writing a book on words. Power of words. And
it's very powerful to find the right word to get this a way into the system, and it's a little bit different for everybody. So my intention was to help everybody understand the pressure system and how our inner core controls that, and why that's so important. If you have any issues with incontinence, because this is a huge thing with women. And I will not, present myself as being a pelvic floor therapist, because, you know, I spend my days, you know, with spine and pain and this, that, and other. But I find myself in the same classes with these pelvic floor therapists because we're all talking about the same thing. And we're talking about the same group of muscles, because how well your core works, and not just the outer core, but the inner core, how well that works defines how well you can use your body. It defines your posture and all of those things. So bringing that together and you know, because when you talk about, you know, breath and you talk about the floor, it's like, well, what does the floor have to do with the core? You know, when I plank, why should I have to think about breathing? Why should I have to think about the floor? And I'm kind of leading up to that, you know, I get through the anatomy and then equate the anatomy with this model that I want to describe and show you how it works with breath and how that's all a part of the connection of, you know, using our body and everything. And then it's easier to understand posture and how posture affects these things and how to, you know, because the hardest thing in the whole world for most people is changing the posture. And a lot of that has to do with muscle memory. All has to do with muscle memory. And what is muscle memory? It's nervous system.
Yes.
And tension levels when we have events, when we have, you know, painful events that happen to us, when we have, you know, emotional events, you know, because all of this is a housing. The spine is the house for the nervous system. And so if the house has been threatened, or if we, you know, get emotionally charged, you know, and have our other traumas, it influences the way, particularly the inner core system, and it changes, and then our physical body changes. So you have to talk about all of it. You can't just talk about the six pack, you know.
No, I want to do a quick demo for the audience. You probably know this, like, or have used it. So it's even hard to see, but I've got a wire here. It's from a headphone, right? So if the wire, people, if this is your spine, right, and it's subluxated, right, the messages aren't getting from your brain to the rest of your body, because your spine carries all those signals. So let's think about a garden hose. So if you're, you know, watering the garden, you've got the hose, it's straight, the water flows right through that garden hose and makes it to the plant, no problem. As soon as you put a kink in that garden hose, the water stops flowing. What happens if there's a kink in your spine?
Well, and that's what you just described is basically, you know, the nerves. Not only is it a hose, but it's a hose that has to lengthen, that has to have flexibility, and it doesn't tolerate, and I'm talking about nerves, right? It doesn't tolerate compression or friction or things like that. And so, you know, the nerves, as they come out of our neck, going into our arms, you know, we have the cord, you know, we have the brain. And then we have the cord that comes off the brain, and all of that is housed in our spine. And then out of the different levels of the spine, we have these nerves coming out, and those nerves have to be flexible. You know, for us to do this, nerves have to lengthen and, you know, work with the body just like any of our other tissues. And when things get hung up, you know, we get a lot of protective responses, and that's altered muscle tensions and stuff like that. So that's why, you know, there's not one answer for everybody.
No cookie cutter.
No cookie cutter. You can't, no back problem is the same as another. No neck problem. No, you know, any other problem. You run into, like with some of the other joint systems, while they have a lot of different variables as well to contend with, they're not nearly as complex as this. So.
Yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I want to give you back the floor. You want to bring out your iPad with...
Got my iPad here.
And so, I'm going to, let me see if I do this right. Can I just do that? There you go. Okay. You are on.
Here we go. We just finished talking about the pelvic floor and looking at that hammock of muscle there. And again, I'll just kind of bring here. Let me get my thing lined back up. And there we have our pelvic floor, our lady business, so to speak. Tailbone to pubic bone is a hammock. Okay. And I'm going to flip this guy back around, or this lady back around, and we're going to bring it in. So we talked about that inner core, the main three muscles of the inner core. Diaphragm, transverse abdominis, and the pelvic floor. And I usually try to, change these terms because, you're stumbling over a lot of words. But I want to just think about the diaphragm that's our breather muscle. The transverse abdominis.
The diaphragm is a what muscle?
Our breather muscle. Am I breaking up?
Our breather muscle. Thank you.
Yeah, our breathing muscle.
It did.
Correct. I'm sorry?
You got it. So it's our diaphragm is our breather muscle.
Breather muscle. The transverse abdominis is the encasement muscle, and our pelvic floor is the floor. All right. So let's add some more layers on here, and we're going to get into what I call the outer core. So there's our transverse or our encasement. There's the proverbial six-pack, our rectus abdominis. This muscle is the claim to fame for core. When people think about, I shouldn't say people, but when a lot of people think about core exercise, this is the muscle that is given a lot of attributes. When you actually look at it, it only has one piece. It's important. It's important to have a rectus abdominis or a six-pack, but it's a big part. It's a part of a much bigger system. So it just basically attaches to, the front of the cage, right, like so, and it comes down to the pubic bone. This is the muscle we need to get up out of bed in the morning. Okay. Yes. All right. And then we're going to add the next layer, which is our internal oblique. And the fiber direction of that is, they're called obliques because they have oblique orientations. The internal oblique is coming up like so. And then our external oblique, which is the outermost layer. And that's the one thing I don't like about this app is it doesn't show the actual obliqueness. It makes it look a little horizontal, but it's actually the internal and the external oblique work together with the six-pack. Those are our power muscles. Those are our muscles that move, that actually twist the body, that we use to push and pull and all of that. Our inner core holds the space. It holds the volume of what our body is, and it gives a foundation, if you will, for our outer core muscles to move over. Right? If you don't have your inner core muscles working well, we still need to support our organ system. We still need to, hold ourselves together. And this is where you get involved with a lot of problems with a loss of inner core. Stability leads to an overactivation or a compensation of using our outer core muscles. And so that's kind of the puzzle that I have to go through and figure out with somebody. What's driving this muscle to function the way that it's functioning? And I got a little ahead of myself, so I got to finish the core story before I can move on to talking about pressure system stuff. And I'm going to take that away, and we're going to look at that back strap. Actually, I'm going to take it down one more. In my book, I tend to group these two together because, again, you can start getting things so complicated that you've become boring before you know it. So this group of muscles, this is the deepest. We're looking at the back of the back, and this group of muscles, the deepest muscle of the back, and it looks like this app makes it look like it's one long, continuous, skinny little muscle, when in fact what it is. And I didn't do a very good job of orienting people to how the spine works because, again, you can talk forever about anatomy, but, each bone of the spine tips forward and back, it twists, it side bends. And so you have to have, each muscle has to have its own multifidus in order to control its position relative to the bone above and below it. So this multifidus is actually overlapping muscles that go from one bony sticky outie to the bony sticky outie of the muscle below, and they're overlapping right right
So
like
Dr. Luci, let me ask you a question, because I think most people in the listening audience don't know this.
Mm-hmm.
So do you agree that the spine connects to different organs? And so if one part of the spine is out of alignment, you're going to have an issue with that organ or body part, like sciatica or things like that?
So when you start, talking about you're getting in, the nervous system is pretty darn complex.
Yeah, it is.
And then you're getting into what we call the autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic control. And the autonomic nervous system is a big piece of what runs our organs. And the most traditional osteopathy or osteopathic physicians would certainly agree with, basically, yes, there is, every organ has the nervous system involved with it. There's all these connections and all these things that are happening that, have their own conversation with the brain. They call that, a little bit of that is called the brain gut axis.
Yeah.
It's got its own language and its own talk that, we're not always privy to, but we can influence. And so, while it would be nice to say, okay, this organ is associated with the levels of T6 through T5. And, if we manipulate or jostle that level of the spine, that will directly influence that organ. While there is elements of truth, it's not quite that simple. So that's just one, again, back to what the intention of the book is, to bring truths into the anatomy of how the body works. And so when it gets a little, I don't like to make it simplistic or too simplistic, because that leads to misunderstandings. And what we believe about how our body works really influences our outcome. So if your belief is heavily rooted into, something that's is a piece of the truth, but it's not quite the truth, you can get off track. Does that make sense?
Total sense. Total sense.
All right. So that's why, because that is kind of a complicated question that you asked me, and it's not an easy one to answer. And, you want to be accurate about some of these things. So anyway, I'm going to get back to finishing my anatomy lesson, if that's all right.
Yep.
So you want to be accurate. Exactly. So, we talked about the multifidus, and overlying the multifidus is this big group of muscles. This is a very important muscle group. All of these muscles are very important, but this is one that I spend a whole lot of my time on, the rector spinae, which is a big group of muscles that begin down all along the pelvis and, the sacrum of the pelvis. And it has long straps that come up and attach to the cage. It attaches to every single bone of the spine, and it attaches to the rib cage. This is the main muscle that literally holds us upright against gravity. It is a big dang deal, and it's a huge compensator, and there are a lot of aspects to it. So this is I call it the backstrap, mostly because, when you live in Alaska, there's a lot of hunters up here, and almost everybody understands what the backstrap is. So that's why.
Yeah, and the listening audience doesn't know that you got up like at 2:00 or 3:00 this morning to do this show. So first of all, hail to Dr. Luci Lawlis Bennett.
Hail to Dr. Luci in Alaska.
You're in Alaska. Woo!
Yeah. And we're about, 3 hours behind you.
Yeah. You are a trooper.
Well, it's all a part of being a part of something, right? And when you're this far away, you do what it takes. So now what I'd like to do is to show you another graphic that I have here, where we start to take that inner core system and the anatomy of it, and talk about the model of the pressure system. Okay.
So,
here we are. We have yet something else here. Now, and this is the side view. There's the rib cage, there's the spine, and there's the pelvis. And what we're looking at here is the organ system, right? The liver, the stomach, the intestines, the kidneys, and at the bottom we have the bladder, the uterus, and the rectum, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so all of that, if you think about that in terms of an encasement, and it's full of fluid and it's full of water, and really it's like a water balloon. Right? And a water balloon has pressure in it. It's pressurized, right? So it's not just a big gelatinous mass. There's actually a lot of fluid and air pressure that lives on the inside of us. And if you look above that organ system, up to the cage, there's our air pressure system, because that's, where we breathe and whatnot. And then you go up to the head and we have the final pressure system, because that's full of fluid as well. The brain and the suspension of the brain is in cerebral spinal fluid. So I got a little off track. Back down to this whole organ system here. It's kind of a nice way of thinking about it is it's the water balloon. Okay, the water balloon that lives in all of us. And so there's my representation of the water balloon. And so when you take that water balloon and you think about the diaphragm, again, it's a dome-shaped muscle, but if you think about it kind of like an elastic plate or a bowl that sits right on top of that diaphragm. And that's my little schematic that kind of shows the relationship, the diaphragm sitting right on top of that water balloon, right? So here's the anatomy. And
where the incontinence is going to come in.
Oh, yeah, we're getting there. We're going to tie it all together here.
So we are at 8:01. So 8:01. We have a commercial every half hour. Hold on, let me just bring us. Well, both of us will be on the. Let me just see if I can switch that around. There you are. Hi, beautiful. So let me see if I can do this correctly. Let's see here. And let me just do that. Oh, there we go.
Hi, I'm Jodi Suson with Suson Essentials. I started Suson Essentials in 2015 because of a medic and put 19 different medications. And yes, I reversed all my chronic diseases using plant and energy-based healing. It was amazing. At Suson Essentials, we support both consumers and businesses, and we do that with helping your employees with a food as medicine mindset. How Suson Essentials supports businesses and consumers is we teach people about a food as medicine mindset. So we support people on how to support their own immune system, how to support their brain health, how to support their emotional well-being. And we do that all with plant and an energy-based healing.
Okay. Whoops. And
When we first started out, people thought we were absolutely crazy. They didn't believe we could build a business.
all right. So I just love that I am so savvy.
We all say we would like to be wealthy, but wealth isn't determined by how much money you have. Wealth is determined by your power to define what money is. The dictionary defines money as something used as a way to pay for goods and services and to pay people for their work. So how would you like to have access to an unlimited source of money? Money that is not taxed by the government. Money that increases as you share the opportunity with others. Money that you can use to pay for goods and services and pay people for their work. I'm talking about Bitcoin. It's the future of independent wealth building. Bitcoin is the new money that you control. Get started building your wealth. Call 312-849-3456. That's 312-849-3456.
This is my functional food program, my original video coming up here. And people, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm just going to give myself a plug. Please.
Did you know that more than 100 million U.S. adults are now living with diabetes, pre-diabetes, obesity, and pain? We know these chronic conditions are the leading causes of death and disability, and they are driven by our lifestyles. The good news is that you have the power to prevent these chronic diseases by joining the Functional Food Program. We teach you to make simple changes and transform your life. When participating in the Functional Food Program, you will learn how to navigate the grocery store, avoid hidden sugars, identify GMOs, improve gut health, support the immune system, and more. On top of that, you'll receive a healthy lifestyle jumpstart kit and begin eliminating toxins immediately. So, improve your health by clicking the link below and join the Functional Food Program today.
So yeah, I am going to ask people to go to Suson Essentials YouTube channel, subscribe. You'll keep me happy. Not that that should make a difference, but it does make a difference to me. So we haven't really talked about this yet, but because of my background on using food to help the body heal itself, what you do and what I do together to support someone's well-being is critical.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Nutrition is a huge piece because, with muscle, when you're trying to change, how muscles function, you have to work your way into the nervous system and, deal with that. And, as you load a muscle and as you work I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. The nervous system is a part of what coordinates. So you have to, resolve faulty or unhealthy muscle memory patterns. I'm trying to convert the terminology. And if you don't have the nutritional support, because then you start loading the muscle to grow it. Once you address how it's firing and you want to load it to grow it, you have to have the nutrition there. And systemic inflammations and not absorbing nutrition well and all of that gets in the way. I mean, I've had several patients that were very hard to advance and to move through this process because they had other gut issues or other systemic issues and stuff like that. So it's essential.
Yeah, and I've had people come here where they wanted to. They come in and they have a timeline by which they want to heal.
Yeah.
Right? And you and I are like, more. Let me just say this for the people who don't get that. Your body has its own timeline. And unless you're fueling your body with what it needs, it's going to make what Dr. Luci Lawlis does, Luci Lawlis Bennett. I'll call you Dr. Luci. So it'll make what Dr. Luci does harder and allow your recovery longer.
Absolutely. It's a huge piece of that. And it's a little bit, I don't get heavily into the whole nutrition other than to address, hey, you got a problem, you got to go talk to somebody about it. Because that, the volume of knowledge, that's a huge knowledge base that, that needs to be worked through. And that's, that's important to get involved. When you're working with anybody, it needs to really have a team. If you have a team involved with helping you care for yourself, that's what it's all about, because no one person can truly know it all, I don't think.
So I agree with you fully. A long time ago, when I first set out to create my company, which is now Suson Essentials, but the parent company is called WHP On Site. which is Wellness Hour program. And we were providing chiropractic-led on-site care to corporate America.
Uh-huh.
And actually, somebody who does that really well is Core Wellness out of Wisconsin. They were actually the instigators for that. They're amazing. Jerry Curtin is the CEO and founder of that company. And but what I knew was that you needed, I mean, optimally, you want to have a portal. And the portal allows the practitioners to all share information about that one person to help that person reclaim their health. But, you know, unfortunately, that perfect world hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
So, but here's the thing, and I think I know why. I mean, energetically speaking, right? I think that, yes, people absolutely need what you do. They need a chiropractor. They need a nutritionist. They need acupuncturists. They need brain health doctors. They need psychologists, psychiatrists, and blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, they need responsibility.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You can make the information and the service accessible, but if they're, you know, because everybody has their own story and where they're at in their lives. And, you know, sometimes you just are holding space for them to get there, right? And until they're ready and they're strong enough to be able to take their own reins and whatnot, sometimes, you know, it's all a matter of holding space for people. And, you know.
First of all, thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I struggle, you know, personally sometimes when I observe someone who won't speak their truth about what's really going on for them. And I think to myself, they're not really ready to reclaim their health because they can't even speak what's really happening to them with me. And I'm pretty easy to speak to. And the reason is there's not a mistake that most people have made that I haven't already done.
I hear you.
And I tell people that, like, you can't make a mistake that I haven't done already. I mean, come on. I was 234 pounds on 19 medications. You think I didn't F that up? Sorry. Got you back.
Yeah. Everybody, you know, and
so we had
to it is actually, you know, the ultimate in processing it. So yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, but I didn't catch what you said. What about processing it?
Oh, I thought that was interesting when you know, putting a voice to it, being able to verbalize, you know, where you're at and what's going, you know, why you're stuck where you're stuck. Sometimes it's very hard for people to kind of organize and process. And, you know, when you put words to it, that's a big piece of the processing. But I see that as kind of on a higher level because sometimes people don't have the language, their own language for how to understand and how to work through. And so that's a part of what we're all doing is helping them, you know, find their own language of what it, you know, this information is applicable to me, but, you know, how is that? How is that a part of my body, my heart, my, you know, path, so to speak? And so what does that mean to me? And is there a better word that means to me that's kind of the same, but it's more my truth?
Yeah.
You know? So I mean, you know, to put it there where you're at and what you're up to in your body's traumas, if you will, into words, it's a big part of it. But it's on the higher end when you think of the process of helping people through their journey. I see verbalizing it is kind of on the higher end, and which is kind of interesting because I've spent my whole life verbalizing because I had to. Right? When you grow up in a household of psychologists, you have to verbalize.
Right? Going to silence wasn't an option, was it, Dr. Luci?
Oh no! Are you kidding? If you went to silence, they took you to another psychologist.
Like,
and I'm not kidding.
So you go from your mom, dad,
brother and sister.
mom. Are you a pendulum? That's what I want to know.
I am not being defensive. I am not projecting my. I'm 9 years old. I am not projecting my. I have an older brother and a younger sister, and when we gather, together, as a because we're busy verbalizing about every aspect of our life. And what does that mean? What does that mean to us? What does that mean to you? What does that mean to the universe?
Right.
So, I'm sorry, I digressed.
Oh man, this is great. Well, and because it reminds me. So I have a sister, and we don't really talk anymore. But she's really brilliant, right? And not only is she really intelligent, but she's she could call me on my shit in a second. and then I realized I was doing that for someone else in my life. And then I realized it's probably not so good. Right? Because we have to give people space.
Yeah.
To process the information we gave them. And while you and I, Dr. Luci, may be able to process it fast because like where we're at today, the assumption I was making, and probably you don't do this, but the assumption I was making is that people could process the information at the time that I am.
Yeah. No, I've made that assumption more than once. Don't get to be a therapist for 30 years without spending the first 10 years of it making assumptions.
We are assumption-making machines, are we not?
Well, it's all a journey, right?
Well, I mean, I'm not judging me. I'm not judging you. I'm not judging anybody.
Never sit in judgment.
Oh, no. But it is a fact. We are assumption-making machines. We are judgment-making machines. And the question is, how long does it take you? How long does it take me and you in the audience to go, judging, making an assumption. So it's not that you're going to stop making assumptions. It's not that you're going to stop judging. It's you're going to catch yourself in the midst of such like that,
Yeah.
So, so it's but getting back to people reclaiming their health, they, there's this connection between, what you do and what I do. And also, I also focus on oils a lot, as I think I mentioned to you probably about a month or so ago, and getting the brain to calm down. And there's two oils, specific oils, patchouli and rose, that'll take the brain out of fight or flight. So you hurt yourself, take a whiff of that. It's into your brain in 20 seconds in your bloodstream in 30. And if you don't want to go out and buy a whole bottle of rose, which is really expensive, Console, I'm just going to let people know, because this is, I pretty much talk about this every third show, but Console Essential Oil has several oils in there. It's got like lavender, patchouli, rose, I think sandalwood, maybe some frankincense. And if you hurt yourself, like, my boyfriend was walking down the street, he knocked his knee, it hurt. Most people would have given him something to take care of the knee. I gave him something to take care of the brain.
And the inflammation and the brain's response to that. I mean, that's a huge piece right there, is how we respond to this. This has happened to me. How do I respond? And you can, create kind of a sensitization around, the repetitive, injuries and stuff like that. With, calming that nervous system down is all about addressing inflammation.
Yeah. So to me, the body is so cool. Like, it's so cool.
Right?
It
is so cool.
Yeah, so anybody out there listening, if you love your computer, take a look at your brain.
Hey, you know what? If you feel really motivated, look at the embryology of the brain, the formation. And I mean, it's like amazing when you think of the complexity of what it's in charge of, and you go down that rabbit hole.
Give us like a minute. Give us a minute or whatever. Tell us about the embryology of the brain.
Oh, that's that may be it's a little early in the morning. I need to pull out a little bit of review. The complexity of it, when you take, a few cells that divide into other cells, and and I really wish that I had that, because there's the levels, of how and understand something, because sometimes verbalizing it, of course, is a much higher. But I'll never forget sitting in this one class that was basically, the brain, the embryology of the brain and all of that, and this wonderful neurologist instructor was describing, how that, group of cells, as it's dividing and differentiating and specializing, and how it folds over on itself into the shape of what it is, and you have the cord, all of this formation. I mean, it is like, really?
Yeah,
and how often do things go? I mean, when you consider, yes, things do go wrong, and there are, folks that have to live with those consequences, or with those issues. But when you consider how many people get out, intact,
right,
it's remarkable. Mm-hmm. It is really remarkable. So, yeah.
So I want to go with a few things. I read this information that you gave me, which I think excerpts from the book that you're writing. And there were some really cool things that you were talking about. And I think we were just starting to hint on it.
Yes, I have to get back to finishing my, I have a hard time talking about it without explaining how the mechanics work, because it's very hard to understand if you don't have the mechanics kind of in your head. So, because basically the information that I gave you, it talks about, basically it's all about, you can't train a woman like you're training.
We cut out again.
You can't train a woman like you train a man.
Go ahead and repeat yourself, because you cut out.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. You can't train a woman like you train a man, especially a woman of a certain age, because unless I mean, everybody that works with women, from 30 on up, needs to have a good understanding of how they're breathing and how to assess that. They need to have a good understanding of how their floor is working. You would be very surprised at how many women come in, because of, and again, there's a lot of different health reasons, a lot of different conditions, asthma, chronic IBS, gut problems. All of those things have altered these relationships of this inner core. And a lot of these women are very pressurized. And so it'll make more sense if I can finish my little explanation. I'll run through it as fast as I can.
And I will get you as a solo layout. Here we go. You're our solo.
All right, I'm solo. Okay, we are back into this whole little schematic thing. All right, so I was at, I get reorienting the organ system with our bladder and our uterus, and our rectum is at the bottom of it. It's kind of like a water balloon with those organs at the bottom. We have on top of the water balloon, we have an elastic plate that, presses down, pushes down on it like so. To breathe. And then we also have the pelvic floor is at the bottom. It's the plate it's kind of like a water balloon sandwich here. So we have kind of this is just representative, kind of an elastic bowl or plate that sits at the bottom. So we have this sandwich between the water balloon, between the diaphragm and the pelvic floor. And then that's encased. And this is kind of a hard thing to see right there, the encasement support of all of this. And this is what manages the volume of this organ system, because it's not like you can, you can't squish your liver or your stomach without consequences, right? There's
you can squish them, but there are consequences.
There are consequences to that, right? And so this muscle group, this inner core muscle group, not only the diaphragm, the pelvic floor, and the transverse abdominis or the encasement, not only is controlling our bones and making those connections for other muscles to do their work, they're also managing the volume of our organ system, right? And so that's very, very important. And here is my attempt at taking that schematic of that water balloon sandwich with its encasement and fitting it into, this is the relationship in the spine right there. So that's kind of how that looks, right?
Wow.
So the next thing.
That one again, with the relationship in the spine where it shows the whole thing.
You bet. I'm actually going to pull it up on this because this is where we go, and this is how we're going to relate. First of all,
wow,
this is breath. Breath right here. This is a side view. Because here's the side view, and there's that schematic that I was pulling together. And so here's the side view, and this is my attempt to make it look like bones. And so we have it again at the top, the diaphragm, the water balloon, the pelvic floor, the encasement. And when we breathe in, there's an expansion and a flattening of, an expansion and a flattening, if you will, of that organ system. And so the pelvic floor has to receive that organ system. So as we're breathing in, the whole water balloon is being shifted as much as 2 centimeters downwards, and it's being cushioned and supported by that pelvic floor. And that encasement is holding the sides of it, right? And so then when you exhale your breath, the pelvic floor is a part of helping with that. By it has a little bit of a lift. It's doing a whole lot more than just holding our pee in, okay? It's actually a part of our breath pattern. So we have that going on in our bodies all the time, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a part of what holds us up. It's a part of our volume for our other muscles to work over. And so when we get involved, and there's a lot of reasons why our postures change, we get a change in the alignment of those plates, right? And when you change the alignments of the plates, then you change the way that the muscles are working. And this is a big one right here. And this addresses what your producer, I believe, was talking about, how women get, for a lot of reasons, they drop into a kyphosis. And then they're not breathing well because the orientation of their diaphragm, you see how that plate's tipped forward? That's actually what happens in our bodies. And then because of all of that tipping forward, our pelvis has to change its alignment, so our floor can't work the same. So you take somebody like that, right? And you say, okay, lady, get down on all fours and let's put you in a plank. What's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to hold their breath, and they're going to put, let's go back to this. What happens when we hold our breath? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we put a lot of pressure on that floor. And, the lady business, right? And so you can take a woman who's, had several babies, who has maybe asthma or something like that. They already have a lot of this downward pressure. There's changes in the diaphragm. It becomes less elastic. It becomes all that. You can take a lady like that and you start having them plank. They're going to hold their breath and they're going to create a lot of tension. And that's a lot of pressure for the floor to contend with, right? And even like you can have weak pelvic floors, and you can have perfectly strong pelvic floors. And we're actually seeing this with young women that are getting involved with highly aggressive exercise. And so they want to be competitive, and they start breath holding to keep up with the boys and all of that. And they're pressurizing their floors, and then they're leaking. And that's not okay. That's something that needs to be addressed. And I'm digressing a little bit because, again, back to the point of the book being with older women, you want to make sure they're breathing well. You want to make sure that their posture, that there's elasticity in that. Are they rigid and stuck like that? If that's the case, then you don't want to plank them. You don't want to crunch them because you're going to create a lot of pressure in there. And so you find other alternative ways to help them engage that muscle system and improve. So this is where the piece to, yes, this can change, but not with a plank and not with a crunch. You have to mobilize it. You have to get that breath plate working better. You have to make sure that the encasement is holding and supporting correctly. This is a very common thing for the ladies that have the babies. We end up, because you get like that because you have to accommodate.
What's the middle picture say? Because you can't see it on the screen.
This middle picture right here.
What does it say? Can you page it up a little bit?
So this is basically talking about this is a normal optimal pressure mechanics supporting posture. The lordotic posture, which is the arched posture, some therapists call it the banana back. And so you have to really rely on that backstrap muscle is overactivated, and our other muscles get tight, and you have the propensity for having a lot of weakness in the inner core and the outer core, so you don't get a lot of support. This is a very inefficient core. And then you have this guy, and that's the kyphosis, or the slumped posture, and that one creates a lot of pressure downward on our floor. So incontinence, organ prolapse, those are big dang deals for women. That one of the number 2 reason why women have to go into assisted living places is because of incontinence. And it's interesting because most women think incontinence, well, that's just part of life. That's part of being a woman. And that's not entirely true. There are aspects
close to being true. And we have to go to a quick commercial break here. But I just want to share with people before we do. I had incontinence. I was peeing myself in bed. I'd wake up in the morning cold and wet. Sorry, we're both not on. So I'd wake up in the morning cold and wet because I'd peed myself at night, incontinence. I wouldn't even wake up. Why? Well, because I'm on all these drugs. 17 drugs. I always have to remember. Not worth remembering, but have to tell people 17 different medications all at the same time. My brain was literally turned off. Plus, I'm sure I had a lot of those issues that you're talking about. And so I'm just here to tell you guys that's and you have a choice in the matter. You can get this handled, right, Dr. Luci?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's writing this book.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm writing the book. Therapists know these things, and you talk to any physical therapist, particularly spine or women's health. We know, everybody knows this about the pressure system and what you're trying to do. But when you get out there and you start looking on the internet and you look for books or what can you give your patient? There really isn't anything for people. And it is very hard to conceptualize there's a pressure system in here. The way that I breathe changes my continence. That's a hard sell, Can
I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
Before we go to commercial, and sorry, Naima. So you're talking about the breath. When I was here, this picture, 234 pounds.
Sure.
Right? So you're talking about the breath. We're talking about incontinence associated with that in your posture. Plus, I was on these medications that just turned off my brain.
Oh, yeah.
If you're congested.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Pressure.
Right.
Pressure.
And so I know that not until this very second did I make that connection.
Mm-hmm.
So Lyme congestion, inflammation, it's causing
inflammation.
Yeah.
Inflammation changes muscle tension levels. You know, it's really, and I know you have to go to commercials, so you know I don't want to get off on a whole big, you know,
So
rant.
why don't we hold it, and then I'll
hold it
right back. Hold me on it if I go awry, and we'll do a couple commercials. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Do you worry about finances, family, health, job, relationships? Are you in pain? Do you feel stuck? If you answered yes to any of these questions, help is available. Don't worry, you're not alone. It's part of the human process. You only feel this way because you haven't mastered the voices in your head. No hype, just down-to-earth, solid, workable tools and techniques that you can practice daily. It's really food for the soul. Whether you want to learn how not to worry about anything, reverse type 2 diabetes, publish a book, promote your product or service, or just make extra money. To take advantage of the deal of the day, go to zeldaspeaks.com or call 312-409-6619. Mention promo code The Female Solution and get free shipping. That's zeldaspeaks.com or 312-409-6619. Stop worrying today. Visit zeldaspeaks.com.
Okay, so before we go to the next commercial, I just want to show everybody this book. It's called Your Hidden Food Allergies Are Making You Fat. And I'm going to tell you the title intentionally was incorrect. It was just to get your attention. But it talks about this next commercial. I want to tell you that I've used this test that I'm going to we have this commercial on for 6 years in a row. It's a blood test. It takes out the guesswork. It tells you what exact foods are causing inflammation in your body. Here's a really cool thing. Guess what's next week? We have nutritionist Amy. I'm just going to call her Amy P because I cannot pronounce her last name and I don't want to do her an injustice. But she's going to be here from Cell Science. And she's going to be talking about this test. And so I'm just going to run a 16-second.
With a simple blood test and food plan, Suson Essentials will help your business, your family, and you eliminate toxins and create a step-by-step plan to nourish your mind, body, and spirit. Click here to learn more.
So let me just cancel that. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Cancel that. So, oh no, people. So I put this on two screens. Okay, we got that off. Thank goodness. So I have us here on StreamYard. I had us also going on YouTube.
Oh.
When you hear us talking again, it's because the button got. And I hope that my courage to have this show, having zero experience in running radio and TV, gives somebody else permission. If you're out there and you want to speak your truth and you want to help the world and you're afraid of messing up, do it anyway. Because,
right?
Yeah, do it anyway.
Yeah. That's what I'm writing this book.
Because it's like, silly not to. People make mistakes all the time. It's not a big deal.
It's been a journey.
So here is Beata. She's also a holistic life coach.
I'm Beata, your holistic life coach.
Oh.
These days, it's more important than ever to work on your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. Are you consciously breathing deeply in stressful moments? Do you have a plan or daily routine to maintain balance in your awesome body? Are you struggling to be disciplined in your eating habits? When you partner with me, I'll help you develop a personalized health plan that works for your particular lifestyle.
You can find out more about me at yourholisticlifecoach.com, where you can also review my 3-step protocol to guide you to abundant health. That's yourholisticlifecoach.com, and I'm Beata.
So we are back, and Dr. Luci, so we have 20 minutes left in the show. Really would love to talk about the incontinence and, you know, what are some of the solutions that you provide to people? You know, I provide solutions via, you know, nutrition, elimination, right? What do you need to eliminate from your environment? The 3 T's: toxins, traumas, thoughts, and allowing the body to do cellular repair with the nutrition and essential oils. Tell us about what that looks like, since we have 20 minutes left, and actually we probably have 15 because of the ending.
Exactly. Well, I guess, and that it's kind of another hard question to, you know, because everybody's a little bit different. Why they're where they're at, you know. There's a lot of, I was getting into the whole thing with, you know, continence. You know, what we used to think for women and for women's health was that it was all about weakness of the pelvic floor, right? Mm-hmm. And that can be the issue. You know, there's certainly plenty of conditions, you know, like having a baby, that, you know, changes the strength and the stability of the pelvic floor. But there's also, more commonly, what you see is you can have a very strong, normally functioning pelvic floor, but a lot of pressure from it. You know, and the diaphragm is a huge culprit, but the diaphragm is not alone in that. So that's where it's a little bit difficult to, when I'm looking at a patient, I have to look at the whole of it. But I want to point out one more thing, because we're talking a lot about inflammation, systemic inflammation, and how our inner core muscle system is responding to some of those things. There's some really interesting studies with IBS that have shown that a lot of these folks, you know, because again, you're talking about inflammation, you're talking about pain, you know, and the whole, you know, inability to digest well. There's a big change. Those folks, they have found there's a big change in the tension level of the diaphragm, bearing down and putting pressure, because that's kind of what we do when we hurt, right? We drop in, we want to protect our hurty part. And there's a lot of tension of the diaphragm that follows that. And the next thing you know, that's its muscle memory. And it's always responding. So those folks have, you know, they've got all, and those folks with asthma, COPD, on and on and on. When you have a diaphragm that's constantly putting pressure on, or if you're in the habit of breath holding to jump around or whatever, you have that constant downward pressure. Well, that floor gets tired and it can't hold. And then it fatigues out. And next thing you know, you've lost control, because we don't just wake up one day all of a sudden, we can't hold our pee. It happens in stages. It's kind of not a breakdown, because I don't like to use that term, but it's a wearing down of a muscle that has to work very, very hard. It's the base. It's our trampoline. And when the trampoline gets overstretched and overloaded, then it kind of gives way. So another culprit, I was just talking about the diaphragm pushing down. There's also, I've talked a lot about how when your inner core isn't working well and you're in these different postures and stuff like that, your outer core has to compensate. So our 6-pack muscle, I keep, you know, pointing to this, there's a lot of tension in through there. And that in of itself, you know, that elevated tension level of certain muscles, because they're compensating for something. So they're relaxing tension that, you know, is ramped up. That's a pressurization, you know, of holding your belly in too tight, trying to appear thin and not using the right muscles. That causes a pressurization on the floor. And so, you know, for women, organ the incontinence, organ prolapse, all of those things are very real concerns. There's a high percentage of women that have, and by organ prolapse, there's a lot of different variations of what that looks like. And they have these surgeries, to pin it back up. That's when your bottom starts to fall out, right?
Yeah, my grandmother. Yeah.
Exactly. And there's all sorts of, thank God we have all these wonderful surgeries. But the problem is if you tack it back up and you support it, but you don't change the pressure of how you're using your body, because you got in the habit of always, when I get up, I got to get up like this, and doing that constantly, it just, falls right back out. A lot of these women have to have that surgery over and over and over again, and a lot of them choose not to because, why put yourself through that again? But it's not comfortable to walk around with the bottom hanging out.
I honor our doctors. I really do.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we need them for broken bones,
absolutely,
heart attacks, and when people are having wake-up calls and it's a little late in the game, right?
Yeah.
We need you. We need you. We need you. But I want to say that, if you're listening to this or you're watching us, you want to not get there, right?
Right. That's why we write a book.
It's cheaper to do it our way.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, it's more fun.
Yeah. Why not deal with the problem?
Well, so think about this. You could go see someone like Luci or me and get healthy and have fun at the same time, because we're both fun. And I'm sure you have your own people, right? But what I'm saying is being in community.
Sure.
The alternative is to go under the knife, be put on a drug that puts you under unconscious, that impacts your cells, that destroys some of your cells, certainly some of your brain cells, takes a longer recovery. And I'm going to tell you that in 2016, I was supposed to have rotator cuff surgery, both, because I have 2 torn rotator cuffs, 3 centimeter on the right, 1 centimeter on the left. And if you guys are watching, I have no problem, no pain, right? And I used essential oils, frankincense essential oil, and I used physical therapy, okay? And I used chiropractic care, acupuncture, and energy-based healing. So, but the woman who's been a friend of mine for 36 years, she said, Jodi, you don't have to have surgery on your rotator cuff. And I looked at her and I said, you're batshit crazy.
I've had these conversations.
I want to tell you that if you're sitting here and listening to us and you're going, you're batshit crazy, that's okay.
It's
be there for a moment, right? Be there for a moment, and then take another look. Because I avoided 2 surgeries. So what? At least $50,000. Plus, I got to learn about oils. I had some fun, and I wasn't stuck in a recliner. Because if you go and have shoulder surgery, they're going to put you in one of those lazy boy recliners.
There's no other place to sleep except for in a recliner. You need to be in a recliner for at least 6 weeks, because otherwise you're not going to get any sleep because you're. No, it hurts.
Yeah.
Surgery is no joke. I have several patients right now that I'm, helping one of my friends out with taking care of, and
if you're the last guy, help them out. Yeah. So how can people get in touch with you in Anchorage? It's in Anchorage, right?
I'm in Anchorage, Alaska. Yeah.
Yeah. So if they wanted to come see you, not that all my listeners are there, but you have your listeners and you can share. How do they get in touch with you to get help from you to reclaim their health?
So I'm working at a clinic by the name of United Physical Therapy.
Okay.
And that's where you can find me and connect with me in order for me to, physically see you.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm putting that in the thread. So United Physical Therapy is how you can connect with Dr. Luci Lawlis, right?
Bennett.
I'm getting the other one. You know what? Like, so bad at me, I'm having a blank on the Bennett.
All right.
Well,
only interjected for the purposes of, because I'm known in this town as Luci Bennett. But my full name is Luci Lawlis Bennett.
Okay, so we'll just call you Dr. Luci, but she's Dr. Luci Bennett.
That's what most of my patients call me. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you can connect with her at United Physical Therapy. She's in Anchorage, Alaska, and yeah, I'm gonna have to come visit you. By the way, just
Yeah.
Even I like you so well, I'd still come visit so I can see you.
Come in June.
All day.
Literally all day, because the sun doesn't go down in the summertime. In June, it's so beautiful. It really is the final frontier. Alaska is actually a hard place to live, and it's a much harder place to leave.
Yeah,
because it's just it's so beautiful. It's very the population up here is quite small. There's only like 750,000 or some number like that in the whole state. Yeah. In the entire state of Alaska, there's only really that number of people.
And I know the number's not right, but in Chicago at one point there was 10 million just in the city.
Yeah, exactly. I grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, and that's the Metroplex is and it's a lot bigger now than it was when I grew up there. But yeah, I've been in Alaska for about 28 years, because I know that because my son's 28 years old. So
wow, and you look amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Now I'm 55 this year. Double nickels.
Double nickels. Yeah. I love double nickels.
That's where I'm at.
I'm going to be 58 this year.
Ah, very good. Very good. Yeah. You look good too.
Thank you. Thank you.
I can't believe there's a picture of you back there. I'm like, wow. Behind you? Those are your pictures? Were you saying one of those was you, or all of those are you?
All of them are me. So
wow.
Here is when I was a bodybuilder.
Gotcha.
Taken in Venice Beach in California, Muscle Beach.
Gotcha.
The funny thing is, I never took pictures with a bathing suit on or anything like that. So it was divine intervention that this photo was actually taken. This is at a wedding at my highest weight at 234 plus pounds. And I think that this picture is so telling, not because I'm fat, but it's hard to see from here, but go to my website at susonessentials.com. You can't see my eyes. And it's bad. Yeah, it's bad that I'm fat. Not a big deal. You can lose weight. But the real problem and the real success wasn't the weight loss. It was the loss of inflammation, right? Because my eyes you couldn't see because my face was so inflamed. And then this is when I reclaimed my health, the last picture. And yeah, they're all me. And the funny thing is, my father, we haven't talked about my dad. My dad was amazing. He was also into health. I mean, he was a developer, but we grew up on barbells and protein shakes. The bad thing is our protein had raw eggs in it. It was the 70s. Yeah. We don't do that anymore. But he made the best smoothies. He had a pharmacy, right, with an F, right? Pharmacy, F-A-R-M.
Oh, gotcha.
Mm-hmm. We had tons of vitamins. And so for me to move from supplements to pharmaceuticals back in 1997 was a huge shift, because the reason I did it is I didn't want to cause harm to other people, because they said I had bipolar disorder, that I was emotionally unfit and blah, blah, blah. So I was actually harming my own body to eliminate or mitigate harming somebody else with my mood.
Mm.
No one ever asked me about my diet.
Mm-hmm.
Because all I had to do was sugar to me.
Huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
So, sugar is a culprit. If you haven't picked up on that yet,
Oh yeah.
check it out.
I have my relationship with sugar.
Have you ever tried monk fruit?
Oh yeah, no. I have a bag of it on my coffee table. I've been liking
A bag of it in here.
Yeah, I've been replacing my coffee with this thing. It's called mud. And I can't rattle off all the various this, that, and others that make it, but I like to throw in a little monk fruit sugar or whatever to sweeten it up a little bit.
Okay, you just, here's the thing. I can't help myself. I'm going to have to show you now. And I sent this out in an email last night. I did an email for this show, and also it's talks about a few things. But I know what mud is. But I didn't know what mud was before I created this. Not your mama's hot cocoa, okay? So, and it's the same mug. So, the cool thing is, if you want to support your health and de-stress, okay, this is what I'm just going to show you. Let me just see if I can make this bigger. I can. I'm just going to take a second here. So these are your ingredients. I use nut milk by Elmhurst 1925. And the reason I use that company is because they have a proprietary process by where they peel the nut. And there's only 2 ingredients, filtered water and the nut. Boom, done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Organic cacao powder.
Mm-hmm.
All these mushroom powders. There's mud. So and this is just, I actually don't use that brand anymore, but it doesn't make a difference. Well, it does make a difference on your brand. It doesn't make a difference for the sake of this conversation.
Yeah.
No less than 5 mushrooms into my coffee every single morning. You can put in hot cocoa, you can put in tea, you can put in coffee, whatever. I also add echinacea and I add dandelion root, support the immune system. But all those mushrooms, what they do is these mushrooms support de-stressing your life. So when I have this chart, if anybody wants it, they can just email me and, Jodi at SusonEssentials.com. But when you're adding mushrooms and you can't even taste the difference, I mean, maybe a little, but nothing really. On the chart, it shows what all these mushrooms do, and it de-stresses you. I don't know where you all have been in the last year, but my stress levels went up.
Right?
Totally skyrocketed.
Yeah.
And then options for sweeteners, right? So maple syrup, coconut sugar, monk fruit, 0 glycemic, and just date syrup. And here I am making it. And then I add my own whipped cream. Love whipped cream. So if you can do dairy, you can make your own whipped cream, and it takes 2 seconds. You pour it into the whipped cream maker, and no aluminum, please, for that whipped cream dispenser, because that will hurt your brain. So, but anyway, so that's just kind of you brought up mud. So there you go. And that's, my favorite morning drink. So, and if I need to get a boost, I think that's what mud is, isn't it? Mushrooms?
Yeah, I recognized a bunch of those. I think they also include turmeric, however you want to pronounce it. And that was one of the other ingredients that I recall from that. And, and I don't want to misrepresent them. So
No, and that's fine.
Those ingredients.
That's fine. And actually, I don't put turmeric in that one. You can. I always encourage people to find what works for them. Sometimes I put in cinnamon essential oil because it regulates blood sugar levels. But turmeric, I have a turmeric
90
latte.
seconds.
They're going to do the closing. But I make a turmeric latte and a touch of black pepper because it increases the bioavailability by 2,000%. So
that's important. I wondered what the relationship was with black pepper, because I've been seeing that more and more. So anyways.
Yeah, we can talk offline, or if you guys, anybody wants to call me about that. Actually, so I am going to just put the banner in.
60 seconds.
You can call for a free consultation, 847-738-0242, or reach out at Jodi at SusonEssentials.com, which is on the banner here on my YouTube channel. Please feel free to subscribe. I will give myself a plug. I need more subscribers. I'll do a dance for you if you subscribe. I'm just going to say for the dance. My hands are going to be up in the air, and here it is. You got it now, okay?
Bring
There's your dance. So thank you. You are a wealth of knowledge. I think that we've only scratched the surface, so we should probably have you back on here to do
that would be great. Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. And so we'll as soon as this ends, the commercial is going to go in a second here, I think. Is it going or no? I guess it has to go. I'm going to press it now. But you and I will talk after these commercials are over, and we'll pick a date. Oh, and looked like Administrative Professionals Day is tomorrow. Happy Administrative Professionals Day. Tune in to see, Naima Latif tomorrow, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. And we have, the show airs every single day. 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. And then we have a show on Sunday nights as well. And you get to hear a variety of different ways to reclaim your health, whether it's emotional, physical, whatever it is. It's really good. I mean, I am blessed to be surrounded by so amazing people. Really, I am. And thank you so much for being here. You are a gift. You are a very talented writer. Like I can't.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can't wait till the book comes out.
Wow.
So, and we'll have you on the show for that as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That would be great.
Yeah, for sure. And your father's writing a book. So
my father is always writing a book.
Japan.
Oh, I never told you what your father said. He said, and it's going to be
Germany
on my book.
Danke.
Words are vibrations in the air.
Merci.
Right?
Spain.
Oh, yeah.
So and I'll add to that.
Italy.
And those vibrations will either heal
Egypt.
or hurt.
Ghana. Medasi.
They're weapons.
Mm-hmm.
South
Yeah.
Africa.
Weapons.
Yeah, we're planning a show on emotional
Asante.
abuse.
Israel.
But spousal abuse,
Pakistan.
but not men to
Shukriya.
women to men.
Afghanistan.
Mm.
Tashakur.
Because we're going to break the
Arabia.
silence.
Shukran.
Yeah.
Assalam.
Because men aren't
alaikum
allowed
wa
to talk about it.
rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Right?
So manly.
Mm-hmm.
And may peace be
But
upon
we
you.
got a group
and
of
the
men that are
mercy
going to
of God
willing to talk,
and God's blessings.
who broke the chains. Okay, so we are ending the episode. Is it 9:02? We're at, hold on. End episode. End broadcast. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for using BlogTalk Radio.